Welcome to another IEA podcast. As once again we call Paul. Paul Stark is the IEA General Counsel, and we talk about legal issues and rights and responsibilities and things that are relevant to professional educators. And today we're going to talk about evaluations, performance evaluations. Very basic question to start it, Paul. Who does the performance evaluation for a professional educator? When do they do it? And what is it that they're evaluating?
Yeah, evaluations are a central part for all educators in Idaho, really, and it's something that you should really pay attention to. Evaluations go into the personnel file. Personnel files travel with you, so if you change districts, whatever happened in your old district's coming with you, so you should pay attention to these. I can talk in a minute about what to do if you get a poor evaluation or an inaccurate evaluation, but generally evaluations are done by your building principal. They'll be the ones that will do your evaluations in general. There can be some exceptions to that. And evaluations need to be done by June 1st of every year. So generally, individuals will get their evaluation there towards the end of the school year. There is oftentimes there can be a kind of evaluation done, depending on the district, at the beginning of the school year, so that you have kind of a formative and a summative evaluation that you experience. But most that I've seen have come just at the end of the year. Now, the foundations for that evaluation come from a variety of different things. There's test scores. Student test scores are important. Observations are very, very important, and Idaho Code really dictates exactly those observations. Every certificated individual in the state is entitled to two observations, and the code says written observations. One of those has to take place before January 1st. So when you're thinking about evaluations, you should be observed by your evaluator in person, usually, once before January 1st and one after January 1st, and then you should expect your evaluation no later than June 1st of every year.
Now, is there some kind of scoring scale for evaluations? And if so, what scores are good? And is there a minimum threshold to keep your job, to get a raise? How does the evaluation factor into those kinds of things?
There is most districts operate on what's called a Charlotte-Danielson model, and there are various domains. Teachers are pretty familiar with this, but different things like professionalism and that sort of thing, and their ability to teach. There's some districts that use a different type of model, but they should all somewhat correlate together. So every district can be just a little bit different. The kind of things, was that your question, Dave? What goes into that, then, those evaluations?
Is there a score? Is there a score that needs to be met, some kind of threshold, or what's a good score versus what's a bad score?
Yeah, there is a score, like whether you're distinguished, you're proficient, you're basic, or needing improvement and those sort of things. So there are scores that are assigned to you. When it comes to allocation of funds from the state to the school district for the position this teacher holds, you need to, there's some restrictions on, you can't have an overall basic evaluation, and you can have only certain domains that have requirements for, you can be inefficient, I guess is what I want to say, in only a certain number of domains. So it does affect funding for the district, but right now we're talking about just individual evaluations. And so your evaluations will go into your overall performance and whether or not you get a new contract for the next year. Poor performance is a basis for which to not offer a contract.
So I just happen to know that the IEA offers trainings at various times and locations around the state on evaluations. How do you prepare for an evaluation? How do you get yourself set up for the best possible evaluation? From your standpoint, from a legal standpoint, any tips on what a teacher or an educator should do or they should know to get that best possible evaluation?
Yeah, I mean, as an attorney's perspective, it's probably similar to what these trainings provide. I haven't been to one of those trainings, but what I assume they would say is keep your own portfolio of your good works, the things that you're doing right, because there might be some things that your evaluator misses. So if you get a really glowing email from a parent saying, thank you, you made all the difference this year in my child's life, yeah, print that out, put it in a file folder, or save it online in a file folder of some capacity so that you have that. Then when it comes time for your evaluation, or maybe beforehand, you can offer those sort of things up to your principal. They might not know that all this good stuff is going on, so keep that. Keep the good cards and the good comments. If you have a particular lesson that is extremely effective and you're very proud of it, then share that with your evaluator. And a lot of people are reluctant to blow their own horn, but in this kind of situation, you want to do that. As I said, your evaluations and your personnel file will follow you around. And unless you're going to stay in that district for the rest of your career, at some point someone's going to be evaluating you based upon your performance and based upon your personnel file. You want that thing to be as shiny as possible.
So you alluded to this earlier, but can an educator appeal an evaluation that they think isn't as shiny as it should be under those kinds of circumstances? They think they got an inaccurate evaluation. Can they appeal it? And if so, how do they do it?
Yeah, that's a little more tricky. I think it varies district by district. So board policy may allow some form of grievance right or something like that, where you have a right to contest maybe an evaluation. Some districts have post-observation meetings where after someone comes in and observes you, you have a chance to sit down and talk to them. Those are the occasions where you can advocate for yourself. And I'd also suggest that, most any meeting you have with your administrator, it's always good to have someone with you, because especially if there's potential bad news, oftentimes individuals don't, their ears start ringing and they don't hear all the details. And having someone sit by you that can advocate for you but also can take good notes is important. Some districts would welcome a teacher to talk with the school board if they had a problem with it, but not many, I'd have to say. The one right that you do have is under Idaho Code Section 33518, and anybody listening to this can look it up. But it provides that all material relevant to the evaluation must go into the personnel file. Now, sometimes the written observations are stapled to the evaluation. Sometimes they're just incorporated in the language. The observations form the basis for some of the comments. But everything relevant to your evaluation should go into your personnel file. That would include perhaps these more positive things that you could present to your evaluator on why you're doing a good job. The other thing that you have a right to under 33518 is a right to submit a rebuttal letter. And that rebuttal letter can also have attachments to it. So if you do get a bad evaluation, you always have the right to submit some kind of rebuttal. So let's say you got a principal that just doesn't listen to you, or doesn't want to acknowledge the good things you've done. There's nothing to keep you from writing that rebuttal letter, attaching the good emails or whatnot, and getting that into your personnel file. The thing to remember here, Dave, is that for a teacher who may move to a different district in the future, remember that personnel file basically becomes your resume. It becomes your working resume, and you got to remember who your audience is. A rebuttal letter, sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to show him or I'm going to show her. But honestly, a rebuttal letter is for a future audience. It's a future superintendent who's looking at you, trying to decide whether they want to bring you on board. And so what you're doing oftentimes in rebuttal letters is pitching your case, making your sales pitch to a future employer.
That is the lowdown on performance evaluations. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
All right.
We hope you found this edition of the Better Call Paul podcast informative and helpful. Keep your eyes and ears open for the next installment. In the meantime, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Visit our website at idahoea.org. I'm IEA Communications Director Dave Harbison. We appreciate you listening.